My name is Daniel. I am a Costa Rican yoga teacher. Yoga has been part of my life for most of my life, and I became a certified yoga teacher back in 2011. Nowadays, I focus more on the practice of Yin Yoga. It's a practice that has saved my life from many injuries and different situations I was encountering along my path, and I have found it a beautiful practice that I've been sharing with people for over a decade now. And I can see how it has a deep healing power to not just help people with their physical injuries, but also with their mental approach to life and themselves. And it's something that I like to share. So this series of asanas are designed to bring some of that experience to your life as well. And the main idea behind the practice of Yin is that we want to allow the body to rest and be at ease in the shapes, which is not necessarily making them easier, mostly because once that we are still in one shape, we are finding ourselves with our own mind and our own stories. So being comfortable with the discomfort, it's a nice way to not just heal, but also understand that life will put us in situations that we might not be very comfortable with, but we can find the tools and the forbearance to cope with some of these different scenarios in a very healthy and humble way, so that we can face chaos and step through it with grace, and maybe finding our way through in a way that we can take the things that we learn and share with other people as well.
Daniel, it feels surreal to have you in this space in Texas. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
So you're a big part of why I ended up doing yoga teacher training. I, left my first job and I had this window of time, and I remembered this amazing lesson that I had with you a year before that. And I kind of went looking for the place where you teach yoga, and I found that the class was happening immediately after I left this job. And so I ended up in the jungle in Costa Rica, and we spent a month doing yoga teacher training. And even after that, I ended up with a spine injury, and I had all these other events in my life. And I consistently came back to the practice specifically that you taught, where you taught Yin Yoga. And so I'm so grateful to now share that practice with a broader audience on Open Heart. Can you tell us what Yin Yoga has done for you?
Well, it has done so much. Back in the day, I had a knee injury. It was mostly a meniscus injury that required surgery, and I was able to bring it back into place by doing some of the gym principles. I also had suffered 2 severe traumas to the lower back, and this is the practice that helped me bring myself back into alignment, and it also helped me deal with pain, because back in the day I used to practice a lot of just vigorous styles of yoga that would give me a sense of both burnout and also just inflammation. And through the practice of Yin, I have found a deep healing approach to it. So it's something that I found very helpful for myself, and I've noticed that if it works the wonders that it had worked for me, I would also find a way to make it work for other people as well.
And I think you have this really special gift of sharing in a way that feels accessible. It feels like information that I can follow from home. And I actually do Zoom calls with you in Costa Rica in between cases sometimes, and it really helps me with my lower back. And so I'm really hoping that this reaches anyone who needs support anywhere in their body, in the physical body, but also in the emotional body, because we do hold a lot in the fascia. And you said to me that it is fascinating. So here on Open Heart, we're excited to bring you the Fascinating series with Daniel Castro, Yin Yoga.
Our legs and our feet are an extension of our root chakra. So they represent our ability to move forward in life. They are our foundation. And these couple of shapes that we're going to explore right now, they are designed to stretch the plantar fascia and also the connective tissue around the ankle joint. So the first one is called the toe squat, which is coming forward into a tabletop position and then curling the toes in. For those of you with any excessive amount of tension on the feet, if you have never done this before, it might be a little bit challenging. So you can keep your hands on the ground And for those of you who can sit upright with your toes curled under, this is gonna be the eventual form of the shape. And the main idea is to allow the weight of the body to drop into the feet so that we can allow that set of tissues on the bottom of our feet and toes to stretch slowly. It will look something like this eventually. And the idea is to make sure that you can relax the muscles in your feet and the toes. It's a very challenging shape if you have never done this before. But if you're comfortable sitting in this position, one way to go a little bit deeper is to scoot your knees away from your toes in a way that the flexion of your toes increases. Then you would hold on to this for about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes if you're comfortable. And eventually we would move into the counter pose, which is what we call an ankle stretch. Essentially lowering the hands down. You should notice the sensation of the tissue moving back into its original shape and form as you point your toes back, and then gently placing your hips onto your heels, sitting upright like this. Most people are comfortable in this position. If you have any discomfort in your feet, you can also use a towel. So any folded towel in 3 or 4 that you have at home, you can set this underneath your feet and ankles in a way that the cushion is relieving some of that discomfort. And if you can go deeper, you can also take a prop. It could be a book. In this case, I'm using blocks, but you can also use a book just to find the concept of elevating your knees and increasing the extension of the foot. So this is a modification that we can hold on for a minute or so in a way that we allow the fascia on the top of the foot to open up slowly. And whenever there's issues in the feet, think about how we walk, and the way that we move through life. Sometimes we have difficulties making decisions, on how to move forward, and we tend to feel a little bit stagnant. So that sense of grounding and feeling the body and understanding what our feet are trying to tell us whenever there's a situation in our feet, it's sometimes a nice opportunity to reflect on what is the next step forward, or how we can open up our mind to be present and grounded in a way that we can make the right decision forward as well. Our next asana is a squat. This is a shape that targets the superficial back line, mostly on the Achilles tendons and also in the fascia in the lower back and along the spine. So the first modification for the shape is for people that have any knee or hip conditions and have a difficulty squatting all the way down. So for that, you're gonna need a couple of blocks. You can also use like a small stool or a stack of books, as long as you can elevate your hips. We would place one block on the lower position and the second one on the medium position. Then taking a seat on the blocks, this way we can allow the knees to open up so that they're not in a deep flexion, as well as the hips. Then we're using your exhalation. You can slowly come forward and allow the torso to fall down. Now in this variation, we're not really targeting the Achilles tendons. We're essentially just finding a stretch on the tissues along the spine, and the main idea is to allow your body to soften and relax here. To come out of it, once that you're hold it for a good 2 or 3 minutes, if you're comfortable, you want to make sure you're slowly allowing your body to come up, right? In Yin Yoga, the way we come out of the shape is as important as how long we stay in stillness with it. So what I'm doing here is that I'm shifting my weight towards my left arm, and then I'm gonna push a little bit and then slowly come up, applying some weight on my right arm as well. So once that you come up, you can find a little bit of cat and cow or any other counter pose that feels comfortable, so that you can reset the sensation and the tissues along the spine. For those of you who can squat easily, one way to target the Achilles tendon is to hold onto your knees like this, so that if you lean forward, you're gonna feel the stretch right in there. Sometimes the heels are not on the floor because there's tension on the Achilles tendon. One way to modify it is using, again, book or block, so that you can elevate your heels and holding on to it a little bit, 1, 2, 3 minutes if you're comfortable like this. If you want to go deeper into that superficial back line, we separate the legs and then allow the torso to fold forward and down. So this is gonna target your spine mostly, allowing the head to relax. You might notice some stretch on the cervical spine. To go deeper, you can also interlace your fingers and rest your hands on the back of your head without really pulling the head down. The main idea by doing this is to apply weight and find a deeper stretch. You can hold on to these modifications for a minute at a time, and then eventually you can also walk your hands forward. That usually targets the lumbar fascia. That's a little sheet of connective tissue underneath the skin. And after you reach your hands and arms forward, one important concept again is to soften and relax. So once you're ready to come out, you can slowly lower the knees down and then find your way into a little bit of a counter stretch, some cat and cow, maybe an up dog, or anything else that feels comfortable to you as well. This asana is frog pose, and it's gonna work especially on the front side of the hips towards the groin area, and the tissues that are involved with both internal and external rotation of the thighs. And to get into it, we're gonna start on a wide-legged forward fold in a way that our feet are slightly wider than usual. Then the knees are gonna go down. The shins can go in line with the short lines of the mat. And then for the first version of it, you can place your forearms on the floor, allowing the tissues, especially the adductors in your legs, to relax, but also finding a little bit of an action in your arms so that you're pushing your forearms forward in a way that the hips are moving back. This one requires a balance between the energy that we're applying on the arms and the softness that we find in the legs and hips, so that the fascia and the connective tissue in your hip joint can open up slowly. Ideally, we would hold on to this for a couple of minutes. This one is one of those shapes that requires a lot of resiliency, and forbearance, so that you're checking in with your face, you're checking in with your breath, and making sure that there's that constant sense of balance in the softness in the tissues in your hips. If you can go deeper, you can stop applying pressure on your arms and allowing the torso to come forward, stretching the legs out, maybe also scooting back a little bit so that you can increase that sensation, finding the edge again, relaxing your head onto your hands like a pillow, softening here for a couple of minutes as well, finding that edge as you lose it, right? If you can go deeper, just tapping in a little bit further in. The next variation is bending through the knees in a way that we maintain a sense of contact with the toes on the floor, because the moment that your feet come off the ground, this is already engaging the muscles in your outer hips. So we want to make sure that we are softening the muscle tissue on the legs. And if you can go deeper, you just slide your toes and feet a little bit closer. Maybe they get to touch. And if you can soften on this one, you can also hold on to it for a couple of minutes. One last variation is what I like to call an upward facing frog, which is basically setting your hands on the sides of your rib cage and then slowly pressing with your arms to lift the torso, keeping the hips down. This one is more challenging, so maybe less time holding on to it. When you're ready to come out, we just find our way back down and reverse, stretching the legs out. You can also tuck your toes, lift the thighs, move them in, and then scoot your feet towards each other, and then try that again. Eventually, once that your feet and legs come to touch, you can also bend your knees and swing your legs side to side, which might give you a sensation of the tissues that we have just worked on for those internal and external rotations of your thighs. And then when you're ready, you just find your way back out. For the Dragon Pose series, we're going to need ideally a couple of blocks, and we're also going to need a little blankie or a towel. So essentially, we find our way into a downward facing dog. Then we set the towel or the blanket for the support of the right knee. We're going to place, in this case, I'm stepping my left foot forward and I'm resting the right knee onto the towel so that it's allowing it to find some cushion there. This is a shape that we hold on for a little bit longer, so it's important to find that sense of support. The first variation is going to be lifting up your torso. So what we're tapping into here is mostly the hip flexor, but also that front line of fascia, what is known as the superficial front line that goes from the front of your leg and around the front side of your torso. Another way to tap into it a little further after you hold on to this shape for about a minute or two is to send the opposite hand. In this case, I'm sending my left hand towards the right hamstring, and lifting the right arm up will send that line of fascia into a deeper lengthening. So this modification is quite deep. So if you're noticing that you're struggling on that first version of it, maybe skip this one. This one should be more of a goal to reach on later on. But if you can hold on to this one 30 seconds, which should be approximately 5 breaths, breathing at a steady pace, should be enough. Then the next version is bringing the block on the foot that we have forward to the side. Then you scoot your foot to the side, your heel to your foot out, bring that block back inside, and then lower your elbows or forearms down onto the prop. You can also lower the height of your props, and if it's comfortable in the body, you can also remove the props and then just go down to the floor. This is a variation that we call the winged dragon, in which I'm going to allow the internal arch of the foot to come off the ground and the external side of the foot to stay grounded on the floor. Noticing how this leg is moving into an abduction, and that way you can also find a little bit of the stretch on your acetabulum or the hip socket. If you want to go deeper into it, all you need to do is to lean towards that side. So hip opening is always very challenging. Some people say that the emotions are stored in the hips, which I totally agree, but they're not just in the hips. You know, the entire body is a data bank of emotion. So there's sometimes some resistance that can surface by doing some of these shapes. If you can go a little bit further, you can also move your upper body a little bit to the opposite side. This will tap into the lateral line, so you might notice how that stretches towards that part of the body as well. Each one of these variations, you can hold them for a minute or two, and when you're ready to come out, remember we want to do it slowly, so I would take the props back into place one at a time, just shifting weight slightly, and then because this hip flexor has been an extension for a certain amount of time at this point, we're going to slowly bring it back into flexion by moving the hips back gently. Maybe you want to find a little bit of a half split so that the stretch is targeting the back of your front leg for a breath or two. And then when you're ready, you can find a way out into any counter pose or any sort of reset that feels good to you. This shape is called a swan, and it's also known as pigeon in the vinyasa styles of yoga. The first variation and the first thing we need to keep in mind is for people that have knee injuries. Most of the time, whenever there is a knee condition, the discomfort in the shape comes from the rotation of the shin bone and the femur. So one way to modify this shape is essentially what we would do in Yin Yoga, calling it a deer pose, in which the shin is in line with the top of the mat, the thigh is in line with the side of the mat, and then the back leg is in a position that feels comfortable. In this right angle of the knee, there is no rotation for the joint to come into. So you can find your way forward like that, and this would target some of the tissues on the outer hip, which is what we're looking for. You can also elevate the floor if necessary, so that we can find that stretch there without really bringing any tension into the knee. And then for those of us who have no situation or any injury on the knee, then we can flex the angle of the knee a little bit and then elevate that hip, so that this one is essentially the pigeon pose, keeping your torso upright. This should target more into that outer hip. If you can go deeper, you can also lower your blocks, pardon me, your elbows onto the blocks, and Simply hinging with your weight over to the opposite side will create a deeper stretch. If you can go deeper, you can remove the blocks and pillow your head on top of your hands. And a further variation is bringing the opposite arm from the front leg across, like threading the needle. Obviously, finding that sense of softening and surrendering into the shape. And eventually, to come out, you can either find your way into a downward dog, or you can lean on the side like I'm doing, bringing the back leg forward, and then placing your feet on the ground, finding some windshield wipers like this would help you reset some of the tissues that you stretch on the right outer hip. This shape is called Shoelace. It's what we call Gomukhasana in Vinyasa Yoga. It's also known as cow face pose. So the first version of it is keeping your legs straight and bringing one of the legs over the next one so that your heel is resting as close to that side of the hip as possible. Then you can either hold on to the top leg like this. You can also bring your props. If you want to find some spinal flexion, you can allow the torso to lean forward, resting your arms or elbows on the blocks. And if it's possible for you to bring your front foot to the side of the hip, it's important to make sure that your hips are solidly grounding on the floor so that you're not really sitting on the foot. This will tilt the height of that one hip, and it will also tilt the curvature of the spine. So from the horizontal alignment of the hips, we allow the torso to elongate upwards, and then holding on to it as it is. This is a similar target area from the swan shapes, in which they're stretching the outer part of the hips. And you can also allow the body to go forward to a height that feels comfortable. You can try the higher position on the props, or you can also go a little bit lower if that feels good to you. Some people also like to bend the elbows and rest their head on their hands like this. So it's all a matter of exploring and see what feels right in the body. As long as you can allow the torso or the muscles in general to relax, then that way we can target those tissues efficiently, especially the connective tissue. To come out, as after you come up, you can lean back and then just reverse, right? Stretching one leg forward and then the second leg, maybe rolling side to side, or you can also try some of those windshield wipers we were trying before as well. And then same amount of time on the other side. For square pose, also known as double pigeon or Agni Stambhasana, we want to allow the shins to be square to the top of the mat. So the first version of it is bringing your legs stretched out in front of you, and then bringing one ankle on top of the opposite knee. So for some people, this is going to be enough. You can simply bring your hands behind your back and allow the torso to lift upwards. The second version is bringing this extended leg in front towards that same position so that the shins are somewhat square to the top of the mat. If you notice here, my knee is not touching the foot, and that's okay. We don't really want to find that right now, but it's more about finding the position, and then a little bit of an adjustment is bringing your hands to the glutes and moving these muscles back in a way that we expose the sitting bones and find a deeper pelvic tilt. You can also use your hands behind your back to gently press against the ground in a way that the torso is lifting up. This is an action that comes from the hands, is not coming from the lifting of the torso itself. You want to use your arms and not the muscles in your back so that this increases the pelvic tilt, and it also increases the stretch in the back of the hips. And then eventually, you can think about using your inhalations to elongate upwards and your exhalations to gently send your heart forward. There's a common tendency to lead with the head, so instead, think about keeping your head upright, but then just leaning with your torso forward. That's going to be enough to make you feel a deep stretch on the back of the hips. You can also elevate the floor with the blocks, sending them forward like this so that your elbows are resting onto the blocks. You can also decrease the height as time goes by. I usually modify the height every minute or so, and I usually hold on to this for about 4 to 5 minutes. Eventually, if you can reach for the ground, you can also use your hands and arms in this position as well, in a way that you're using your inhalations to lengthen the torso upwards, and then your exhalations to pull the floor in front of you towards the body. Notice how the knee is moving closer to the foot at this point. And then eventually you can also lower your elbows down, finding a deeper flexion of the spine, maybe also using your arms to press against your shin bones to find your way further forward. Then when you're ready to come out, remember we do so in a slow manner, so gently pushing the floor away, walking your hands towards the body, and then bringing them behind your back, stretching the legs, either taking the leg with your hands or just bringing your legs forward for a little bit of internal and external rotation, or you can also try those windshield wipers again. The main idea is to find any counter pose that feels comfortable, in a way to release the sensation of the stretch and bring in some of the tissues back into their original length and shape as well. And then when you're ready, just a matter of doing the other side. For angel wings, we're going to extend one arm out, then internally rotate and bring it as far up the back as possible. This is going to be different for each one of us. Then the second arm is going to do the same thing. Then we're going to gently allow the body to lay down on the back with the hands and arms in this position, allowing the fingers, forearms, elbows, and arms to relax. Taking deeper breaths for a minute or two. If you can go deeper, you can scoot your body down or the hands further up. You can also keep your legs flat on the ground, or you can also place them into a butterfly position so that there's some work on the hips as well. When you're ready to come out, you can place the bottom of your feet on the ground, pressing through the back of your skull and the feet, lifting through the back, and then reaching your arms down and out. You're gonna notice a sensation of blood flowing back down your hands and fingers because there's a small compression into the brachial artery. Then after you're done with the first side, it's a matter of bringing the opposite arm to the side and doing that same thing again with just the opposite hand on top. If there's any shoulder issues or injuries, most likely one of those hands is gonna be a little bit lower. So the concept is to see how far I can bring my hand up behind the back without really finding a sensation of sharp stabbing pain. And with time and patience, that arm slowly moves a little bit further in. This one is the Sphinx, and the first thing we want to make sure is that our legs are in a comfortable position. So I naturally just like to bring my feet out like this. Maybe you feel more like an internal rotation. That's up to you. Then elbows right up underneath the shoulders in a way that we have this right angle in the elbows. Most people like to perform this one by keeping the chest and the head upright. Personally, I find a good stretch in the cervical spine by allowing the torso to lower down, the rib cage to lower down, and the head to fold forward as well. So this is going to tap into that flexion of the cervical spine as it is micro extending the lower back. There's a little bit of an extension in the lumbar spine and this flexion of the cervical spine. You can breathe into this one comfortably for a minute or two. And if you can go deeper, you can use blocks or books by placing them underneath your elbows and lifting the height of your upper body. Once that you find this modification, you can allow that gentle release again, in a way that you're allowing the tissues on top of your shoulders to receive some of the stretch, relaxing as much muscle energy as possible. Another modification or variation of the shape is lifting the feet up. This will increase the back bend in the lumbar spine. It's a great shape for people that have a specific form of herniated disc. As long as the back bend feels comfortable, then this is a nice way to relieve some of the pain or the tension in the lower back. Then you can lower the feet down and go a little bit deeper into what we call the seal, which is shifting the weight to one arm, removing the block, and then placing the hand on the floor, doing the same thing on the other side, and then just lifting the torso upright. You can go deeper by walking your hands further back and just keeping that sense of engaging the arms, but keeping torso and the legs as relaxed as possible. For a good minute or so, when you're ready to come down, you can gently bend through the elbows, lowering the torso, bringing the hands on top of each other like a pillow. And then resting your head down, you can bend your knees again and swing your legs side to side so that we release some of the tension in the lumbar spine. For supported half bridge, we're gonna start laying on the back, feet on the floor, gentle touch on the heels just to set up the distance between the feet and the hips. You're gonna need a prop for this one. So again, books or a block. Ideally, you would go to the higher position of your props. So the concept is that your prop is gonna be perpendicular to the spine, right underneath the sacrum. So with one inhalation, you can press the bottom of your feet down, lifting your hips up, and then setting your prop right underneath the back of your hip bones and the sacrum in a way that you have a support for this part of the body, laying the weight of your hips down to the block or the props as heavily and naturally as possible. Then usually I like to bring the feet a little bit wider apart in a way that I find this sweet spot for the legs to relax, and in a way that I'm not really holding on to the position of the legs. And then you can also reach your arms overhead. This is a nice back bending position that gives you a sense of ease and comfort and soothingness. You know, generally back bendings are shapes that they activate the nervous system, but whenever you perform them with support, it's a nice way to find some relaxation. You can try these shape for about a minute or two. And you can also modify it by extending one leg down. That should tap slightly into the hip flexor. For some people, it might also tap into the psoas as well. So you can hold on to it for a minute at a time with one leg straight. Then you can bend that knee, place the foot back down, and do the same stretch on the other side. Just relaxing as much as possible, allowing the weight to release towards gravity and the earth as much as you can. Then you can bend that knee as well. When you're ready to come out, you can use your exhalation to lower the hands and arms down to the floor, and inhalation again to gently press the feet to lift the hips up, removing your prop, and then lowering down to lay on your back, either for a little squeeze or rocking side to side, a happy baby, or any other counter pose that feels comfortable. For fish pose, we're going to begin by measuring the solar plexus, which is this area right underneath the front of the ribs, right below the sternum. And once that you find that spot, you're gonna mirror that to the back. So this is approximately your 10th or 11th thoracic vertebrae. And this is the spot that we want to bring our support into. Notice that I have these two props behind me. The first one is right for the spine, and the second one is for the head. So the fish is about this thoracic extension, is mostly a back bend for your mid back. You can keep your legs laying down like this, or you can also bring them into a butterfly position. The main idea is where we place our arms here, because if my arms are close to the body as they are right now, I am not going to find as much of a deep openness in the chest. If you open up your arms to the sides, that will allow your chest to find that sense of stretch there that is really nice. So you can hold on to this for a couple of minutes, and if you're ready to go deeper, you can also keep a towel handy, because sometimes when we remove this block, it's not that easy to bring the head down to the floor. This is bringing a deeper cervical extension. So maybe a towel underneath the head feels more adequate. As long as you can breathe easily, this is gonna be a really nice heart opener that you can hold on to for a couple more minutes if you can. And when you're ready to come out, the important part is not to sit upright right up front. Usually I have people bring in their feet to the floor with the knees towards each other. And then instead of coming upwards, I'm just gonna roll on one side. So bringing that arm to the front and then just rolling into a fetus position, maybe using the arm as a pillow. Then giving yourself a moment or two to notice how that feels. And then eventually when you're ready to come up, you can just simply come up sideways. This is a shape that I like to call the open wing. And it's both a shoulder and heart opener. You can think of your arms and hands as an extension of your heart. This is what we use to hug and give and receive and caress as well. So in my experience, the issues around shoulders are essentially issues around embracing, either a memory, a place, a situation, or ourselves sometimes. So it's important to be very gentle, especially if there's any shoulder issues or injuries. And there's also a bit of a limitation that we might find in terms of the hips and knees on this one. So the first version of it is laying on the belly, keeping your hands on the side of the rib cage, like coming up into preparing for a cobra pose. You would extend one arm out right in line with your shoulders, and then resting your head on the floor, gaze into the opposite direction as your hand. Now the first option we have here is to tuck the left toes. In this case, I have my right arm out, I'm tucking my left toes in, and I'm gonna slide the right thigh in so that the legs are resting in this position like a fetus position. If this is the modification for those of you who have any knee conditions or maybe a hip or a lower back injury that might limit some of the motion, if your knee, hips, and lower back are okay, you can simply bend your left knee and then take a step back with your left leg. Here you can also reach the left arm behind you so that we're increasing the distance between the collarbones and also the stretch that we're gonna find right on the front side of the shoulder. Most people don't have issues with this version, and if you can go even further, what I like to do is to extend that left leg down in a way that I'm aiming to lay onto that arm. Then the next version is coming back down to the belly, taking a couple of breaths to feel the sensation of the shoulder resetting. Then we're going to change the angle of this arm to a 45 degree. On top of that, keeping the hand solid on the floor, I'm gonna rotate externally on the arm and then resting the head back down, bending through the left knee again and stepping back. Remember, if there is any knee issues or lower back, then the modification is gonna be keeping your legs in the same position that we found before. So if you can keep your legs straight, increasing the distance between the collarbones is going to make you find a deeper stretch on the right side of the chest. So you can also reach behind your back on the left arm as well. Although personally, I prefer the concept of leverage by pressing this hand down. And we want to make sure the stretch is right on the right side of the chest. Find the stretch on the right side of the chest. If you notice it in your forearm or on the elbow or the biceps, you might want to find some more of that external rotation. Once you hold on to this version, a couple of minutes in, you can find your way back down. We're gonna do that again, but this time, keeping your elbow solid on the floor, we're going to bend the elbow to a 90 degree angle. And then same story, either sliding the thigh in and resting the left leg on top, or stepping your left foot behind your back. This is the deepest version of the stretch. So here I'm finding some yang energy on the left arm, keeping the right side as relaxed as possible. Holding on to this one, again for a couple of minutes. When you're ready to come down, simply lay back down on the belly and give yourself some time to soften and relax. Then we're gonna do the counter pose for this shape, which is bringing the left hand to the top of the mat, gently pressing down, and then reaching the right arm across to thread the needle. This variation is gonna tap into the rotator cuff and a little bit into the side delta as well. So the first option here is just to lay down onto your arm like this, bringing this left hand down and broadening the distance between the shoulder blades. You can hold on to it as it is,
softening the body as much as you can, especially on the muscles between your shoulder blades and the upper back. And if you can go deeper, you can also bend through the right elbow in a way that your hand is resting underneath your head and your left shoulder is continuously folding down towards the floor. Once that you're in this position, or on this one for a good 2 or 3 minutes, one of the ways that I like to come out of this is keeping the right arm still. I'm gonna send the left hand to the floor to gently press, and then just slowly roll onto the back without moving that right arm. Then you're gonna notice the sensation of the irrigation of blood flowing back down the right arm, the hand and the fingers. And once that sensation feels like it's coming back to normal, we can roll back onto the belly and then try the other side.
This shape is a side stretch. It's called Bananasana. And to get into it, we're gonna start bringing the hands behind the head as if we're about to do sit-ups. And we're gonna take a deep breath in. With the exhalation, we're gonna do half a sit-up, just enough to lift your head and the shoulders off the ground. You're gonna move your head and shoulders one way. So notice that I'm scooting one shoulder at a time and then lowering the head and the torso back down to the floor. You can also bring your feet and legs straight down to the ground and then walk them over to the same side. So what we're aiming for here is the side stretch that is tapping into the rib cage, the side of the waist, maybe a tiny little bit in towards that IT band. And you can simply breathe a little deeper. That expansion of your rib cage and the lungs is going to target some of those tissues a little further. And then eventually, after 1 minute or two of staying in the shapes, you can bring your right ankle or the foot on the side that you're stretching over that other foot. Notice that my hip is coming off the ground. So if I lower down, I can find that deeper form of that stretch on the side. You can also go a little further by scooting your upper body towards the opposite side of the stretch. And then just relaxing into this one. You can hold it for up to 5 minutes if that feels comfortable. When you're ready to come out, you just simply reverse the steps. You unhook the foot and then gently move your head and the torso back to the center. Maybe bringing your knees your feet to the ground and your knees to the chest, giving yourself a little squeeze or a happy baby or any other counter pose that feels comfortable. The reclined twist is a shape that taps into the spiral line of fascia. And to get into it, we're going to start by moving the hips towards the right side of the mat, keeping the shoulders in the same position as they were. The arms are gonna open wide in line with the shoulders. And we're gonna cross the right leg over the left one and allow the legs to fall down towards the left side as the head is turning towards the right side, so that the thoracic spine is twisting in the opposite direction as the cervical spine. Then to go deeper, you need to think about where the position of the bottom hip is. In my case, this is my left hip, and I'm going to scoot that left hip further to the right side so that the twist, that rotation on the spine is becoming a little bit deeper. Then eventually, after a minute or so, you can extend your legs, finding a different version of the twist. Sometimes this leg tends to slide down, so you can hold on to the shin or the calf. If you can reach for the foot and the toes, you can do that as well. One more thing you can try here is to reach the right arm overhead. That's gonna open up some of the tissues around the rib cage as well. And you can also find a different modification of this by bending the bottom knee and grabbing onto that foot, finding this version of it that we call pulling the cat's tail. Then once you're comfortable holding on to this for a couple more minutes, you can gently release and find a way back to the center. Gently bringing your hips back to their neutral position. And then again, maybe a little squeeze or some windshield wipers or a happy baby if that feels comfortable as well. Something that I like to do as a counter pose between sides is to roll back into a snail. So this is like the gym version
of a plow pose, just making sure that you're supporting your lower back and relaxing as much as you can into this, only for 1 minute or so. When you're ready to come down, you just find your way back to the floor and then gently find your way into the other side.
So Daniel, I have to know, what does living with an open heart mean to you in sharing this series with us at Open Heart and the world?
Well, for me, it comes to realizing that I'm just one of 8 billion human beings, and that I have found this practice as an embrace and a space in which I have found a lot of healing and empowering in my own life. And I feel like if that's something that has helped me endure pain and injury and even sadness and sorrow, it's something that I'm more than willing to share with others as well, as much as I can, so that we can find this sense of humbleness, expansion, and the realization that we're just this fleeting creature, flowing through this earth, and these gifts that we receive from the practice are an amazing way to share some of that and find some more joy and well-being in our lives. For me, that's what it's all about. The part of the fleetingness of existence is making sure that we make it count and that we live it in a genuine, loving, and open kind of way.